Hey guys, I am MG, and today I'll be looking at Mission Impossible, which is a 1996 American action spy film that is based on the television series by Bruce Geller, which is about Ethan Hunt finding out who framed him for the murders of his team. And it was directed by Brian De Palma and written by David Coep and Robert Towne. That stars Tom Cruise, who we have seen in the Top Gun series, as the main character, Ethan Hunt. However, why don't we stop drinking beer and start reviewing right now? I don't really like this film. It's fine enough, but man, there is just a lot of things that are holding this film back from being good. Now obviously, the plot is confusing as script. I don't understand it whatsoever, even after I read it from Wikipedia. It just has so much going for it without any particular reason, and it only makes the experience significantly worse, because no matter how entertained I am by certain scenes, I just don't understand them. After the opening, this movie just decides to tackle you with all these different plot points, and it feels like the writers were trying too hard to make the story interesting, and I am mildly interested by it, but man, I just wish I knew what was going on, because again, it's convoluted. And you want to know what the funny thing is? Some of these plot points are just pointlessly over-explained, with the biggest one being the twist. It sounds so simple, like the boss faked his death and was the bad guy. But the movie just decides to explain every second of the whole sabotage, and the twist doesn't even feel natural. It feels like it was just thrown in there for the sake of making a twist, and I don't like it, because of how little it actually uses the villain, and how out of place it feels, since Jim just randomly shows up. And unfortunately, these issues also affect the pacing. It's just too slow, with scenes that drag on for like 8 minutes, and I don't think I'm exaggerating. Look how long Tom Cruise is at the room for, and there are other scenes that feel stretched out, and make the runtime too long for my liking. Maybe I could have dealt with it better if I was invested by the characters, but I'm sorry, I don't care about pretty much any of them. Ethan was very bland, Claire has nothing to do, Luther was not interesting, all of a few different villains like Jim, Max and Kittredge were all super lame, and even the performances aren't that great. They're decent enough, with Tom Cruise obviously being the standout, but they often say the dialogue too quietly that makes it hard to understand them a lot of the time, and it just doesn't do these characters much of a favor to be honest, so sorry. I also wish that there was 1 or 2 more action scenes, since it could have helped to make the plot more exciting, so that's kind of a bummer. And yeah, I definitely understand why a lot of people don't care too much about this film, because its flaws are really strong. With that said, this film does have its fair share of strengths. The directing by Brian De Palma is really well done, with great cinematography and sharp as hell editing that makes this film really well made. The action is really great, with a break-in and climax especially being the highlights. They were a bit too long, but both of them were really gripping, especially the break-in, with it having a lot of tense moments that were just heart-pounding. The dramatic scenes were also really effective. Like, as pointless as the twist was, and how long it is, its execution was still remarkable, and genuinely one of my favorite moments in the entire film, alongside the first act, which was pretty good to be honest. And it's such a shame that despite a few moments, the rest of the film wasn't super compelling, and it doesn't help that the plot is confusing either. The special effects have surprisingly aged pretty well from 1996, and I did not notice any dated looking shots, so that's impressive. The music by Danny Elfman is also fantastic, greatly highlighting the excitement and tension every time it shows up. And even though I don't care about any of the characters, there were a couple of character moments that I kind of liked. I enjoyed the interactions between all the team members that were killed in the opening, and the final scene with Ethan and Luther was also pretty nice. And it does make me excited to see the rest of the franchise, since hilariously, these are the only 2 characters that show up in every film. And the fact that most of the sequels got positive reviews makes me excited as well, so I can't wait for those. But overall, this film has its moments, but the convoluted story, standard characters, off-pacing, and not great performances really drag this film down for me. If you want to watch it, then go ahead, but there are way better action films out there, and I see why this only got 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Speaking of 65, divide that by 10, and that's my score. 6.5 out of 10. Goodbye everyone, and thank you for watching. Bye.